Hi and welcome at Atelier Mariekuniek, an arts and crafts podcast. In this episode I will talk about some knitting, some cyanotype, some mending and maybe some other crafts. If you're interested in that sort of things, please keep watching. Hello and welcome. My name is Marieke. I am a mother of 2 adult children. I'm married to Albert. I live in a village near Amsterdam and I work at a school, the Rudolf Steiner College in Haarlem. In this episode, as I told you, I would like to discuss some knitting, show you some projects and also talk about a little project I did with my daughter in the last week of the summer holiday. So let's dive into things. I have my notes ready because in my podcast book I made a few years ago, I never told about it because when I was going through my old materials, I recorded some podcasts, never edited them. So hopefully this one will come to life in the end. The first thing I would like to talk about is my latest project, my finished project, and that's what I'm wearing. So I will take off my cardigan. That's a store-bought cardigan because it was a little bit chilly in the summer and I saw this cardigan, so I bought it. But I love to knit, and this is my finished object. It's the Lariat sweater by Magara. Here's a picture of of her version. It's a lovely sweater and I knitted it, and I will put on the label of the yarn, in linen called Lin Garn from Fexbo Lin. I bought this yarn a few years ago at Stephen and Penelope in Amsterdam. It was a lingering project, and well, a few weeks ago I thought it's a shame I haven't finished it yet because the yarn was pretty expensive. So I decided to knit the how do you call it? The arms, it doesn't come. I already knitted the front and the back, and I only knitted the sleeves. There it is. So I did so a few weeks ago and I finished it. It's an old kind of way. It's not top down or bottom up. It's knitted in parts and you have to sew it together. But I am pretty happy with the results. It's a lovely pattern with some very nice details, because in the front you see a small cable pattern going down till the twisted rib at the bottom. But on the back there's an even more beautiful detail, and I hope I will be able to show it properly. You see it's a little bit of a V-neck that's filled with some kind of netting, and there is also a bigger cable pattern going down the back. Anyhow, I love this pattern, I love the results, and I'm happy I am able to wear it before winter starts. So that's my finished object. My next projects are socks, and I love to knit socks because there are nice small projects you can work on while watching TV or having some company. And I also love the fact that you can put some of your own creativity in a sock. My socks I knit top down, so I knit the cuff and then a heel flap and gusset, and then I move on to the foot. And I mostly end with a little bit of a rounded toe. So here, at this moment I am knitting 2 socks at one time, a twisted loop. So here are my socks. As you can see, I have a loop. I knit them on Likke needles, 2.25 or 1 size 1, US size 1. And I am knitting them. I don't know which yarn I am using because it's a very old project that also is going to be finished. I am using a solid purple and some self-striping yarn leftovers. And I decided to start with a 2x2 rib and use a Latvian Braid and put some colorwork in next. And then I started using the self-striping yarn, and I am alternating with the solid color I used here and the light color. At this moment I knitted the heels and I am working on the foot, and as you can see I also am alternating the self-striping color with the purple. The way I do that is a continuous loop. So I knit 1 row of the solid and 1 row of the self-striping, and whenever I transfer to the other color, like here, I knit until the last 3 stitches. Then I take those stitches over to the other needle and I continue knitting the rest until I am around again. I hope this makes sense. If not, please leave a message in the comments below. Just so you know everything I talk about. If there is a pattern or something, it will be below in the description box. But this one will not be in the description box because it's my own pattern. I use 62 stitches or 64. I'm blanking on that now. Most of the times I use 62 or 64 stitches to knit my socks. That's perfect for my legs and feet. So, my scrappy socks. On to the next item, and that is a lovely pattern as well. I knitted it before because in the past I knitted it with Moeke yarns. The pattern is written for Moeke yarns. I only am missing the pattern. So I will stop to look for it. I found the pattern. It's the Bride Sweater by Junko Akamoto. The only down thing of this pattern is it's only in 1 size, but the size is perfectly for me. So and I loved my first sweater I knit. It's like the one here in the picture. As I told you before, it's this one uses the moeke yarns which no longer is made. But it's one of my most favorite sweaters, so I decided I wanted to have another one. And the yarn I am using is Nutiden yarn from Öner och Eyre, a Swedish company of Caroline Henkelius. She is a yarn maker, and she uses only Swedish wool. The wool is dyed by themselves. They use as little as cleaning materials as possible, so the lanolin will stay inside of the yarn. But they dye the wool before they start carving. So she is mixing colors to get the final result. This is a plate of this yarn. It is a pre-yarn, as it's called. And as you can see, there are some beautiful colors. It is carded, it's pulled into threads, and normally in normal mills they will spin this after that, but they sell it like this, and it's a wonderful material, but it's very brittle, as you might see, because, well, hopefully I can see, as you can see, I can pull it out very easily. But that's also a positive side, because you can combine it very easily as well to go further. Because of that, I am knitting with 2 threads. I already made some balls before knitting, because I didn't want to combine while knitting because of the brittleness. So I made some yarn balls with 2 threads. The colorway is called Vibeke, and I believe Vibeke is a knitter that inspired Caroline very much and helped her in the beginning, and that's the reason why she designed a yarn color especially for her. So Vibeke colorway, and this is as far as I have gotten already. I am knitting the I don't get the name, but this part is finished. I am knitting on the body part, but I decided I want to finish the sleeves first before I go any further on the body part, because I'm not sure if I have enough yarn to make it as long as I want to. So I decided to start knitting. I will start knitting on the sleeves, and when I finish them I will do some ribbing on the bottom of the sweater. I'm holding it, I'm keeping it in a small bag I made myself, a project bag. I make my own project bags to keep my stuff, and this is one of them. And my socks I keep in this one, which I once made for the free socks knit-along, sock knit-along. But yeah, is holding my regular sock projects as well. Let's see, I think that's all I want to talk about knit-wise. Okay, next thing I wanted to talk about is a project I did with my daughter. It's something we did the last week of our summer holiday. It's called Cyanotype, and it's in Dutch it's called blauwdruk, and it's a technique that was used in photography in the late century. I'm not sure when exactly it was discovered. I know it's used in the past to make building drawings from architects, to duplicate them, but nowadays it's mostly used for creative things, and that's what we used it for. I ordered the materials many years ago and never used them, and I ordered them in powder form, which I need to combine with water before we can use it. But nowadays you also have, if you Google Cyanotype, you will find some materials already in liquid form. Those two you have to combine before it will be light sensitive and usable for your project. So if you want to try it out yourself, Google Cyanotype, and you will find some more ideas and the materials to use. Anyway, we did use some materials. We used it on paper and on cloth. And well, I started first, and I was a little bit of being careful at first, and that's why my results my first results aren't very spectacular. So this was my first attempt. I used some leaves, some how do you call it, bands, rubber bands, some materials for my garden, and a little bit of paper, and this is the result. It's very static, I must say, but this is what was my first result. Then the next time I started, I used some grass and some flowers from my garden and a little bit of netting from the oranges. So this is the second result. And then I moved on a little bit and used a little bit of liquid. And this started to become a little bit more playful, but not so much yet. But then my daughter started. And she already did some research online and found out you can also use turmeric and use dishwasher soap. Soap is Dutch word for soap. So dishwasher liquid. When you use the bubbles, you get lovely reactions. So the first attempt she did was very playful. And here is her first result. As you can see, lots of nice reactions with the chemicals on the paper. And so I thought, yeah, that's very nice. I want to try that as well. And so here is my result after that. So I used a little bit of turmeric as well and some dishwasher liquid, and yeah, I really liked this result. And then I thought, what more can we use to make this a little bit more interested? So I started to look for some materials in my house, and I found some crochet little things, and I brought it downstairs, and immediately my daughter took those, and this is her next result, which I really, really love. And I made a picture of this one and put it as a background on my phone because I like it so much. And that was a bit of the end of the day. I haven't, because she used it already, I couldn't use it myself. So, well, that's no problem because I also have the nice results. The day after, I decided, what more can I do? Oh no, that's not it, because I didn't use the paper anymore, but I used the cloth. We also did some of used the material on, and I put some leaves and some feathers and so on, and yeah, this is the result. Afterwards, when it was dry, I enhanced the materials here by free embroidering on my sewing machine. And I also have another version, and that's this one I put in my book. And what I did with that one is draw some colors in with my Intense pencils and made that wet. And so you have a little bit more of other colors as well. And then I started embroidering. Anyhow, the day after, I thought, what else can I do? Because she already used the little crochet item, and I thought what to do next. And then I decided I had some other materials I had bought many years ago and have never used, and that's this. It's and I have a stabilizer, and this can be used on very delicate fabric when you want to embroider something onto that. It will give a little bit stabilization, so it's easier to embroider, and it's water soluble. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong, but it's water soluble. I think it's like that. So you can embroider on this material and then put it in water and it will dissolve. And that's what I did. And I thought I will machine embroider a little bit of a freestyle something. So I started embroidering, and this is what came out on the end. A little bit of a fish. I hope you will see. Maybe I should put a little bit of white behind. Here you go. A little bit of a fish. And that's what I put on my next example. So I used some liquid and I only put the fish in the middle, and here's the result. And I kind of liked that, but it also was a little bit too, how do you call it, dull. So I also started using some turmeric again and some grasses from my garden, and here's the next result, which I really, really like. And the last item I made was on cloth again, also with the grasses and the plants from my garden, some turmeric and some dishwasher soap. Really love this one. I'm not sure what I will make from it. We shall see, but well, for now it's a lovely thing to have to remind our project. So that's the Cyanotype project we had. So what do I want to talk about next? Oh, I wanted to show you something, and it's supposed to be with the knitting socks item, but I forgot to show you my little basket of scraps. and balls for socks. I knitted socks. I have knitted a lot of socks in my past. So this whole basket below there is filled with scraps, and on top I have some balls and some mini skeins I received as a present. And this is my basket of socks. When I finish my sock I showed before, next thing I will do is go and see if I have some lovely yarn there to combine into a new sock. And talk about socks, I wanted to talk about repairing clothing as well. I do have some socks like these. I knitted a few years ago. And these are Hermione socks. That's the pattern I used. And the yarn I used is mending by Rosa Pomar. Yeah, Retosaria Rosa Pomar. I'm not sure if you can see it here. It's a lovely yarn. But the trouble with this yarn is there isn't any nylon in it. So you will get holes pretty fast. And luckily for me, I knitted them myself, so I have the yarn available to repair them. And as you can see, I have some holes here and some on the heels as well. Are you going to show that, or are you going to show my face? No, here are the holes. So next week I will spend some time to repair these socks, because the yarn itself is wonderful and I love to wear these. Another thing I am repairing constantly is something I am wearing, and it's my jeans, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but here you go. These are all kinds of repairs I did on my, let's see if I can stand up. Yeah, here they are. I repaired these jeans a lot of times, and I'm not going to show you. There has some holes in my jeans between the legs, so I will repair those, although I don't think I will wear my jeans outside much. It will be stay-at-home trousers, but I love to repair them and so they can stay in use. It's a bit of my, they are a bit of my art project this way. The way I repair them is also mentioned in a book, and I don't have it with me because I lent it to a friend. It's called Mending Matters. So I will put a link to the book down in the description box. But that book is all about how to mend your clothes in a nice way, so it's nice to see as well, like, well, mine. Yeah, that's, I think, the last thing I wanted to talk about. I do have some inspiration links. I will put them below, because there are some blogs and YouTube creators I really find inspiring. One of them is Din Life. That's a hand sewing podcast or YouTuber. She is from, and I have to see my notes, from Vietnam. I think that's pronounced in English as well, this way. I don't know. Anyhow, she has all kinds of lovely hand sewing projects, and I thought that would be a nice inspiration for you to watch. So if you are interested in things like that, do go and watch that podcast or those movies. Another very inspirational podcast I found recently is a Dutch girl called Sarah, and the podcast is called It's a Sarah podcast, and she makes podcasts in Dutch, but also in English. So have a look at those as well. Yeah. I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. I try to be not as a perfectionist as I used to be, so I want to keep the editing as low as possible, as minimal as possible, and this means that sometimes there will be a little bit of rambling going on. I hope you don't forgive me for that. English isn't my native language, so I try to pronounce and to talk as good as possible. But sometimes I have to find the words, and that isn't always as easy as it should or would be if it was my native language. Anyhow, I'm trying to make this a regular thing, but I don't promise to be here every week, so you have to see when I will make a new one. So if you like this podcast so far, hit the subscribe button and maybe the notification button, so you will get a message the next time I upload a movie or a podcast. And I hope to see you next time. Bye!